We're going to get into climate change news, but this is climate change news by way of the Coney Barrett confirmation hearings. This is from Peter Kalmus. And this is actually Kamala Harris grilling her on whether she believes in climate change science or not, right? So this is actually a pretty good job by Kamala Harris on this level. Again, we're not gonna go deep in the woods about Kamala Harris, but in this instance, she actually does her job very well. So Peter Kalmus says, as a climate scientist, I hereby inform climate enabler Coney Barrett that the evidence that fossil fuel causes climate change is incontrovertible, just like the evidence that COVID-19 is infectious or that smoking causes cancer. Check this out.
And do you accept that COVID-19 is infectious?
I think, yes, I do accept that COVID-19 is infectious. That's something of which I feel like, we could say you take judicial notice of. It's an obvious fact, yes.
Do you accept that smoking causes cancer?
I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this, but, the notice that smoking causes...
The question is what it is. You can answer it if you believe yes or no.
Senator Harris, yes, every package of cigarettes warns that smoking causes cancer.
And do you believe that climate change is happening and is threatening the air we breathe and the water we drink?
Senator, again, I was wondering where you were going with that. You have asked me a series of questions that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate, and I will not.
Oh, God damn it. Damn this lady. But you know what? They're gonna confirm her. But goddamn this lady and her climate denying ass. And it's not controversial. It's not up for debate. It's not up for debate. Climate change is not up for debate. I'm sorry. Anybody out there, any deniers out there, any Republican GOP conspiracy theorists, anybody out there who thinks that climate change is up for debate, you are a moron. You are an absolute moron. Let's go on to more this again. More climate change denial from Amy Harry Conehead. Watch this.
Let me ask you about a topic that really hasn't arisen much here. Climate change. One of my colleagues, Senator Kennedy, asked you about it late in the hearing yesterday. And your answer was, quote, I'm not a scientist. I have read things about climate change. I would not say I have firm views on it. You believe that human beings cause global warming?
Well, Senator Blumenthal, I don't think I am competent to opine on what causes global warming or not. So
we all have views on it. I'm asking for your opinion.
I don't think that my views on global warming or climate change are relevant to the job I would do as a judge.
Oh, but they are relevant to your job as a judge. They are relevant. Hold on. There is. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Anyways, apparently her father worked for Shell Oil or something like that. Here we go. This is from Jacobin Magazine. Coney Barrett is the Supreme Court Justice Big Oil needs. Yesterday, Coney Barrett told lawmakers she doesn't have firm views on climate change. For decades, her father was a lawyer at Shell Oil, which now has a major major climate case in front of the Supreme Court. Oh, what way do you? She doesn't have any firm views. She's not a scientist. What way do you think she's going to rule on this case? Hold on, I'm going to try and in her Senate questionnaire, Barrett produced the recusal list that governs her tenure on the Seventh Circuit Court. That list includes Shell. She wrote of the list, the Seventh Circuit employs an automatic recusal system to help identify potential conflicts for the judges. Each judge maintains a recusal list, and a computer program flags potential conflicts against that list. So she would probably have to recuse herself, or would she? In this case against Shell Oil. Hold on. Less than 2 weeks before the confirmation hearings, the Supreme Court agreed to hear an appeal by Royal Dutch Shell and other oil giants that are being sued by cities and states for the climate damage those companies created. Shell and the others are asking justices to allow the case to be heard in federal court. In 2018, Inside Climate News reported that internal company documents uncovered by Dutch news organizations show that the oil giant Shell had a deep understanding, dating at least to the 1980s, of the science and risks of global warming caused by fossil fuel emissions. Okay. So she comes from a long line of lizard people. People who would sell out your children for $1, or your children's future for $1. That's the kind of people she trucks with. Louis Appetz says the German Green Party is on 22% in polls. Nice. That is encouraging. You love to hear it, Louis Appetz. Thanks for letting me know. G. Demarest, Amy Coney Barrett should recuse herself from this planet. Amy Royal Dutch, yes. Ross Coben, reptilian aliens, yes. Yeah, they're gonna confirm her. They are gonna confirm her. Unfortunately, she will make it through. Anyways, let's move on. Man, there's so much to cover, guys. I mean, it's overwhelming. But this is the story I really wanted to cover today. From Yale Environment. I think Rick left this in the comments or directed me to this article. This is from October 13th. As waters warm, ocean heat waves are growing more severe. With oceans absorbing more than 90% of global warming, marine heat waves are becoming hotter and larger and are lasting longer. Scientists say the trend has major ecological consequences, from altering fish and plant populations to forcing whales into hazardous waters. Off the coast of California this August, a sea monster of record size was spotted, a patch of warm water that grew to the size of Canada, 9.8 million square kilometers, simmering up to 4 degrees Celsius warmer than usual. It's off the chart, says Andrew Lessing, a fisheries oceanographer at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, who is mapping the marine heat wave on his website, nicknamed the Blob Tracker. By Lessing's reckoning, in September, the unglamorously named NEP20B became the biggest yet spotted blob of warm water there since satellite records began in the early 1980s. Researchers are now scrambling to chart or anticipate the impacts of the NEP20B blob on marine life, tracking how the step change in temperature throws ecosystems out of whack. The phenomenon of a patch of abnormally warm water off the west coast of North America gained notoriety in 2014 when the first such blob was spotted and given that name, after the horror movie creature that devoured everything in its path. That first blob lasted years, from 2013 to 2016. A 3-year blob. It has been named for slicing, or blamed, for slicing some forage fish populations in half, starving seabirds, triggering a collapse in cod, shifting tuna as far north as Alaska, pushing whales into the path of crab fishing lines and ships, and allowing exotics, including glowing tropical sea pickles, to arrive in northern waters. In 2019, a second blob emerged, with record warm waters appearing again this year. Some scientists believe the 2019 event, known as Blob 2.0, may have just never gone away. If NEP 20b is now big enough and hot enough, Lessing says, it may do what the 2013-2016 version did, creating its own microclimate that perpetuates the heat, forcing the warm water to stick around for years yet to come. The blob was actually blamed for the prolonged drought that hit California in the last decade. While NEP 20b appears to be starting to shrink as of early October, it was still a massive 6 million square kilometers and more than 100 days old, said Lessing. Marine heat waves have always been around, but they are becoming hotter and more noticeable and more problematic. We might not see the impacts for years, says Lessing, especially with the paucity of data on fish stocks this year thanks to the ongoing pandemic, he notes, but these impacts could last decades. On land, the effects of increasing heat waves have been easy to see. A global record-breaking temperature of 129.9 degrees, that's 54.4 degrees Celsius, hit Death Valley in California this August. Hot summers have turned forests into tinderboxes that feed massive wildfires. Crops have failed. In 2019, Europe had its hottest June on record. Those land-based heat waves notoriously lead to food price spikes, heat exhaustion, and increased rates of death. But while the land takes the bulk of the headlines, the ocean is taking the bulk of the heat. Water, covering 2/3 of the Earth's surface, absorbs more than 90% of the energy from climate change and has warmed more than 1 degree C on average over the past century. That warming is ramping up. 2019 saw warmer oceans than any year on record, at least in the top 2 kilometers. Like land-based heat waves, marine heat waves have always been around, but they are becoming hotter, more noticeable, and more problematic. Infamous and destructive marine heat waves hit the Mediterranean in 2003, Western Australia in 2011, Northern Australia in 2016. The list goes on. They can be caused or spun up by natural variability like El Nino, but the warming planet is also contributing. One recent attribution study shows that anthropogenic yes, climate change made 7 recent high-impact marine heat waves at least 20 times more likely. Anyways, yes. Here's a little graphic from NIWA, NIWA, of heat wave that hit Australia 2019, from 2009 to 2019. A study showed that by 2100, no matter whether humanity follows a high emissions path or a low one, the oceans will be in a near permanent heat wave state. Wow. It doesn't matter where we go, high emissions path or low one, the oceans will be in a near permanent heat wave state. Meaning boiling oceans, right? Where nothing lives, or, humans aren't really around to be upset about it. G. Demarest asks, got hubris? Guys, we have 116 watching, 71 likes. Please like up the video, and if you're new, please subscribe. Interesting story. I was sent. This is from NavdaniaInternational.org. It's a story about Bill Gates and other philanthropists. The report. Here's a report. It's called "Gates to a Global Empire," a global citizens report. Excuse me. My apologies. The report gathers evidence and throws light on the dangers of Philanthro-capitalism, which is boosting the corporate takeover of our seed, agriculture, food, knowledge, and global health systems, manipulating information. Always believe science unless the scientists are being paid by the philanthro-capitalists, manipulating information and eroding our democracies. Over the last 30 years, it has emerged as a major force, able to derail the international agenda and push our future and the future of our planet towards extinction and ecological collapse. Throughout the report, we see how the patterns of technocratic solutionism, you mean tech solutions, powered by an unholy alliance between big capital, science, and technology institutions and states, are embodied by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and put into accelerated action through philanthropic development. Through its various initiatives, sub-organizations, development schemes, and funding mechanisms, the Gates weave an intricate web of wide-ranging power and influence, obscured through all its separate strands. The report addresses a large part of this web of power. A power which deliberately ignores the past failures of the very technologies they wish to push. Yes. Technology brought us to the brink of extinction. So yeah, maybe going full speed forward with technological solutions. Is that the way? They wish to disregard any potential problem with initiatives. Their initiatives might yield power focused primarily on profit and market expansion. And we have been talking about that a lot in the last week. This democratic emergency is analyzed in detail by leading experts and civil society movement leaders. And they go on to name said leaders. Anyways, check that out if you guys are so inclined. There is the full report here, which we are not going to read today because I want to go back to reading this other article that I couldn't finish yesterday. Oh, by the way, quickly, an update on Arctic sea ice. This is from D. Coronata. Arctic update, running out of chart space. Need to change the second y-axis soon. In 2012, extent rose by 1.4 million kilometers from October 14th to October 21st. In 2019, that was only 645,000 kilometers. Whoa. That's almost 1/3. What's it going to be now? Tune in for the next week. So here's Arctic ice rebound here, below last year's and way below the rebound of 2012. And the differential here in the blue line, going off the charts. All right, I want to go back to this article by Brad Zarnett. Where are we? Hold on. We read part 1. We are going to read part 2 at least. Hold on. Are y'all still with me? All right, so here we go. Part 2 of this article from Brad Zarnett. The business case. For decades, sustainability professionals have searched for the elusive business case to operate more sustainably, but the prize still eludes them. And with good reason, it doesn't exist. Bang. It's a neoliberal fantasy. Excuse me. Dang it. Propped up by corporations and their government puppets. Designed to perpetuate the idea that all the problems are best solved in the marketplace with minimal government involvement. Highlighted section, we need to stop pretending that we're making progress and admit that corporate sustainability is simply the wrong strategy for our global environmental challenges. Ouch. Yes, business has contributed to the wave of positive inputs going into the system, but in spite of those efforts, the output of the system is failing to reverse global deforestation, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem decline, not to mention a host of other social problems like income inequality, living wages, and food insecurity. The truth is that corporations exist in a system that provides little, if any, reward for solving global environmental problems. Most companies have a narrow focus, and it's not in their interest to expend capital to address a global ecological problem like climate change or plastic pollution when no meaningful ROI exists. Our system simply doesn't reward companies for solving problems where the payoff is societal well-being. Ouch. The results speak for themselves, and by now it should be obvious that degrading ecosystems is not a problem that can be solved by each company reducing their impacts one by one with the right sustainability strategy. Great efforts by one company won't make a dent in our collective challenge. We've been approaching this all wrong. Asking companies to play by an alternative set of rules that interferes with their primary goal of increasing shareholder value was a failed strategy from the start. We have a systems problem that encourages business to destroy rather than to regenerate and protect. The capitalist system in which global commerce is conducted is destroying us. Playtime is over. It's the system. Capitalism was created by humans, which means that we have choices. Right. It's time to ditch a system that works for so few at the expense of so many. A system that encourages greed and selfishness with financial windfalls. A system that preys on the weak and treats nature like a slave to be used and discarded. Imagine if we changed the system so that rewards were determined by one's ability to create societal well-being. Imagine if instead of a system that rewards predatory behavior against nature, people, and animals, the system punished it. Imagine if instead of a system that worshipped societal destabilizing concentrated wealth, it was designed to ensure that everyone received a living wage and access to free healthcare and higher education. Imagine if the system were designed to create health and wellness rather than to toxify people's lives for the benefit of the 0.01%. Companies would be still free to operate in the system without government interference, but the new rules would change their focus. The metrics would be designed to reward companies that enriched society, while those that degraded it would become insolvent and fade away. Guess what the percentage of companies that would be? Companies that actually enrich society, as opposed to those that degraded it. How many companies would survive that kind of culling? I imagine that it would be somewhere like 95% of companies. Maybe 99. Maybe 99.9. Imagine how different a company like Amazon Inc. would be in this type of system and how much it would enrich society beyond just selling people stuff that arrives in a day. Well, that's their whole business model, guys. Government, I mean, why would they even need to exist? Why? or if they did exist, it would be on such a insanely smaller scale than they exist now. Government would play a key role in the system. Of course it would. And again, why would Amazon need to exist, right? If we were just delivering totally essential items, right? You know, just things that people need to live without degrading the environment. I mean, that's something that people could just do on a small regional scale. In fact, if you wanted to do that without degrading the environment, Amazon would actually totally go away, because you would just make things regionally and you wouldn't need Amazon, a company like Amazon, to ship it for you. So, end of reason to be. Bye-bye, Amazon. Government would play a key role in the system. It would help to design and police the rules. It would spend tax dollars with the same goal of societal well-being, which would include supporting workers in this transition instead of giving money to corporations that have created much of the harm that we're trying to repair. Gone would be the days where government would set the rules for the benefit of the corporate elite and billionaires, but rather the rules would serve ordinary people for the betterment of society. Sounds fairly utopian and totally unlike anything that we experience today. Wealth could still be created by innovative and creative minds, but it would be based on the new focus of well-being, because that's where the important metrics would lead. So wealth would not be measured by money or, digits in your bank account. It would be measured by other things. These simple systemic changes would have immediate impacts on millions of lives, not in 20 or 30 years when our fragile ecosystems will be well beyond their tipping points. Those corporations who find it difficult to adapt would fade away, and new companies that create well-being would take their place. What would be the point of companies altogether? Why not just have regional co-ops where people just do that for themselves, and so you don't even need corporations or companies or business. Right? Right. No more need to chase shadows looking for elusive business case. For the elusive business case for corporate sustainability, the system would encourage, no, demand it across the board. Choice is a neoliberal fantasy. The science clearly shows that we are now in the era of climate change. Last year, we reached 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, and recently scientists reported that Greenland's ice sheet may have shrunk past the point of no return. With the ice likely to melt away no matter how quickly the world reduces climate warming emissions. The various climate strategies that have been deemed appropriate by the corporate elite, fossil fuel-rich nations, and Davos billionaires all fail to accept the science. 2050 net zero is nothing but a watered-down political target to ensure that the system that created this mess remains largely unchanged. Dang, it's a stark warning of our slide into climate chaos and large-scale global suffering. Positive feedback loops are nearly impossible to predict, but their impacts are coming, and they will shake every life-supporting ecosystem on the planet well before 2050. Giving us truth, Brad Zarnett. Thank you. There's no time for tweaks and promises. Our efforts are well below what is necessary to prevent our climate from heating up beyond 1.5 C. We must demand what's necessary and not what is politically feasible. The real timeline deemed sufficient by the science community is 2030. That's when our carbon budget will expire. It will be uncomfortable, but we have no choice if we want to avoid planetary chaos. Guys, that's all I'm going to read of that article. And tomorrow I'm going to read part 3 and hopefully finish the article. Hold on. Sorry, I don't know what the hell is going on. I got some just. Sorry, guys. I got like something just crazy lodged in my throat. Yeah. And let's see. No, I'm not smoking. I don't smoke. I just, whatever. It happens to the best of us. No, there's nothing to get checked. It's just whatever. I need to go drink a glass of water or something. No, it's not. Okay, guys, you guys are funny. No. I'm not feeling sick on any level, so there's that. Let's see. Let's go to this Gray Zone article. I'm going to read a little more of this Gray Zone article, and then I'm going to leave you guys. And I'm trying to figure out where we left off. I think over here. Dang it, where were we? Oh, here we go. Naomi Klein. We're going to talk a little bit about Naomi Klein. Klein's recent broadsides against Venezuela contrasted strongly with her signing of a 2004 open letter that proclaimed, "If we were Venezuelan, we would vote for Hugo Chavez," and a 2007 column in which she wrote that thanks to the Chavez government, citizens had renewed their faith in the power of democracy to improve their lives. Hold on, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Yes, you can. From Big Green critic to Planet of the Humans opponent, Naomi Klein's opposition to Planet of the Humans was surprising, given the views she has expressed in the past on mainstream environmental politics. In 2013, for example, she bemoaned the deep denialism in the environmental movement among the big green groups on how to fight climate change. And to be very honest with you, she continued, I think it's been more damaging than the right-wing denialism in terms of how much ground we've lost. Wow. Well, that was pretty progressive for Naomi Klein. In her widely acclaimed 2008 book, The Shock Doctrine, Klein, documenting the Ford Foundation's role as a CIA cutout that helped establish the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Chicago. The Ford-funded academic department nurtured the infamous Chicago Boys, a group of neoliberal economists led by Milton Friedman, who conceived the disaster capitalist shock doctrine that inspired the title of Klein's book. They applied their program to Chile as General Augusto Pinochet's economic advisors following his CIA-backed military coup to destroy the leftist government of Chilean President Salvador Allende. Klein also surveyed the Ford Foundation's support for the Berkeley Mafia at the University of California that advised the hyper-repressive junta of General Suharto, which toppled Indonesia's socialist government in 1965. The Berkeley Mafia had studied in the U.S. as part of a program that began in 1956, funded by the Ford Foundation, Klein wrote. Ford-funded students became leaders of the campus groups that participated in overthrowing Sukarno, and the Berkeley Mafia worked closely with the military in the lead up to the coup. Henry Kissinger, the Nixon foreign policy guru whom Klein identified as the mastermind of the dirty war in Chile, had previously served as the director of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund's Special Strategies Project, which helped conceive U.S. national security strategies for countering the spread of communism. Wow. Remember that Henry Ford funded the Nazis on some level, right? He did business with the Nazis during World War II. So he's a big old, fascist in sheep's clothing. Same with Prescott Bush of the Bush family. Today, the Ford Foundation and Rockefeller Brothers Fund support an array of liberal causes, from diversity and racial justice initiatives to the network of NGOs organizing for fossil fuel divestment. Oh, it sounds very, sounds like they're, in line with the social justice movement, right? At the same time, the Ford Foundation backs organizations that push regime change in Latin America, partnering with the U.S. government to fund Freedom House, a DC-based NGO which supported the failed coup to oust Nicaragua's elected leftist government in 2018. Wow. For its part, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund has supported the Syria campaign, a public relations outfit that clamored for U.S. military intervention to remove the UN-recognized government of Syria. This gets deep, guys. This goes really deep. In 2011, when Klein was appointed to 350.org's board of directors, is that when she started having a change of mind? Is that what happened? Oh, she got in bed with some Rockefeller money. She joined forces with the environmental organization incubated by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and supported by the Ford Foundation. As 350.org founder Bill McKibben puts it, unless we go after the money pollution, no campaign against real pollution stands a chance, Klein wrote at the time. Klein's 2015 book and documentary film on climate change, This Changes Everything, was initially launched as a project called The Message. It was supported with hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants from a who's who of major family foundations that helped sustain McKibben's political apparatus. Wow, look at all these foundations. And look at all these investment groups and people. I mean, not just the ones that are highlighted. Highlighted the Seth MacFarlane Foundation, Schmidt Family Foundation, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, Wallace Global Fund, Vivian Westwood, Pamela Anderson Foundation, Chorus Foundation, Oak Foundation. In one of several grants to the book and film project, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund contributed $50,000 to The Message via a nonprofit pass-through called the Sustainable Markets Foundation. Oh. Susan Rockefeller served as a co-executive producer of the documentary version of This Changes Everything. Her husband, David Rockefeller Jr., is the son of tycoon David Rockefeller, a U.S. government-linked Cold Warrior who co-founded the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and helped back the U.S.-managed coup that put Pinochet and the Chicago Boys in power in Chile. Rockefeller Jr., a major supporter of the conservationist causes, is a former chairman of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and board member of Rockefeller Financial Services. In 2014, the Ford Foundation chipped in with $250,000 to Klein's project. That's a nice little sum of money. Klein's The Message also benefited from $140,000 in support from the Schmidt Family Foundation of Google CEO Eric Schmidt and his wife, Wendy. The Schmidt Family Foundation is an ongoing contributor to McKibben's 350.org, kicking in $200,000 in 2018. Oh yeah, the gift that just keeps on giving is hooking up with the Rockefeller Foundation. In April 2019, Klein released A Message from the Future, a video collaboration with Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and artist and pundit Molly Crabapple, which promoted the Green New Deal as a pathway to a renewable-powered economic utopia. Crabapple, a vehement supporter of Washington's campaign for regime change in Syria, is an Eric and Wendy Schmidt Fellow at the New American Foundation, a Democratic Party-linked think tank substantially funded by Google's Schmidt, the Ford Foundation, and the U.S. State Department. God, my head is spinning with how deep this stuff goes. In a recent The Intercept column, Klein took aim at Schmidt, describing him as one of the billionaires exploiting a coherent pandemic shock doctrine to begin building a high-tech dystopia. Wow. She noted that Schmidt is closely aligned with the National Security State as chair of the Defense and Innovation Board, which consults for the Pentagon on the military's application of artificial intelligence. Schmidt also happens to be a proponent of a smart energy grid, which he says will modernize the electric grid to make it look more like the internet. Such a model would not only benefit tech companies like Google, which make their money buying and selling data, but the U.S. national security state, which partnerships with big tech companies increase the capacity of its surveillance apparatus. The Senate version of the Green New Deal calls for the construction of smart power grids almost exactly like those Schmidt imagined. Klein and other high-profile Green New Deal proponents have neglected to mention that this seeming benign component of the well-intentioned plan could represent a giant step on the way to the high-tech dystopia of Silicon Valley barons and their national security state partners. In May 2018, Klein became the Gloria Steinem Endowed Chair in Media, Culture, and Feminist Studies at Rutgers University. The position was created following a 3-year, $3 million campaign, including a dozen foundations. Among the early and path-breaking contributors, according to Rutgers, was the Ford Foundation. Oh my God, it goes on and on. Contributions also poured in for the endowment from tycoons like Sheryl Sandberg, the billionaire chief operating officer of Facebook, and advocate of corporate lean-in feminism. Lean-in feminism. Got to lean in. And Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood mogul, who's totally in bed with all the feminists too, because he's a feminist himself, who was sentenced this March to 23 years in prison for first-degree criminal sexual assault. According to Rutgers, Weinstein provided a gift of $100,000 in honor of his late mother, who shared Gloria Steinem's hope for female equality. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I can't read anymore. I can't do it. It's just blowing my mind, and also just I'm just swimming in this web of foundations and funders and billionaires who really see the future of the smart energy grid and the Green New Deal and the trillions they stand to make in profits. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.